Well, I'm a Cloverfield fan now. After a friend of mine suggested for me to watch the 2008 film titled Cloverfield, it became one of my favorite movies of all time, and I instantly began watching the sequels. While they're very different from the first, the sequels were alright in their own way. The thing that got me so attached to the Cloverfield universe is the massive lore behind the three movies and how they connect in fascinating ways. I'm not going to go over the connections because that would be spoiling things for those of you who want to watch the movies on your own, but trust me, each installment ties into each other despite them all taking place in alternate timelines. But I'm not here to just say the series is intriguing. I want you to analyze each movie's qualities to see what makes them unique and, in my opinion, pretty cool. Well, let's begin with the movie that caused moviegoers to vomit, not because of the horror, but rather because of the shaky cam, Cloverfield. Cloverfield released in 2008. The movie was received with mixed criticism, with some saying the movie was awesome, whereas others resented the movie for its shaky found footage format. Well, which side did I think was right? Well, let's find out. Even though I kinda already spoiled it in the intro of the video, but whatever. Cloverfield is about a group of people who initially throw a party for Rob, who's getting promoted to a vice president of the slushful company he works for. However, the party is interrupted when a freaking monster attacks New York City, and Rob, along with his friends and family, attempt to escape New York, but obviously chaos ensues. While the premise for the movie is pretty simplistic and it's just an American version of Godzilla, the movie is going for a grounded feel, and a simple plot helps execute that feeling of realism and dread perfectly. In fact, there's not a lot of information built about the monster. Throughout the duration of the movie, you have no idea what's going on, and that helps make the first viewing so freaking intense, since us, the audience, is used to knowing what the threat is and is supposed to be, instead of being limited to the perspective of a casual group of characters who know just as much as we do. This is one reason why I love the first Jeepers Creepers. Anyways, the plot is simple, and that's all the movie needs to be successful and grounded in reality. But now the question is raised, are the characters good? Well, yeah. They're not phenomenal nor compelling, but like I said, this movie is going for a simple feeling of dread, and having these characters act like everyday people you see on the street helps with that feeling. And each of these guys are likable, and you never want to see anything bad happen to anyone. They just want to escape a giant monster. Well, there's another go too, but like I said, no spoilers. So we've addressed the overall atmosphere of the movie, but does it ever get boring? The pacing in this movie has got to be some of the best pacing I've seen in any movie, and it's the sole reason why I can honestly rewatch it over and over again. There's not a single dull moment in this movie. The movie starts with a decent introduction, but as soon as the monster invades, the suspense starts and never stops for a single time until the end. There's always something happening, and you should not get bored while watching this movie. Since this is a found footage movie, you'd expect it to hide its terrible CGI by shaking the camera a lot, but honestly, I don't think this movie had to do that. There's such a great use of both digital and practical effects throughout the duration, I could honestly make myself believe the monster was really there. And there was a lot of brilliant work done to the destruction of buildings in this movie to make them look so freaking real. I'm going to have to stop praising this movie because if I continue, I'm going to quit this review and go watch it again. Cloverfield is a perfect example of great execution, great pacing, and effective atmosphere. That's why I'm giving it a perfect rating of 5 out of 5. Okay, imagine you just got done watching Avengers Infinity War and you're really excited to see its conclusion. So you pay for a ticket to Endgame, you go in the theater, sit down, and The Dark Knight starts playing. You have to ask yourself a question. Should I be mad that I'm not able to watch the sequel I've been anticipating? Or should I be happy since I still have a great superhero movie to watch? Well, your answer determines whether you like 10 Cloverfield Lane, if you were a fan of the first. 10 Cloverfield Lane released in 2016 and at first glance has absolutely nothing to do with the first. 10 Cloverfield Lane is about a woman named Michelle who's in the middle of leaving her husband when suddenly she's in a car crash. She wakes up in a bunker where a strange man named Howard seemingly has her captive. However, he tells her that there was some sort of fallout while she was unconscious and the air above is unbreathable and she's stuck in there with him, and a nice dude named Emmett. However, Howard reveals to not be the most stable person to be around, so the movie is one big mystery on whether Howard is telling the truth. I don't care what anyone says, that setup is genius. I like the amount of mystery this movie builds up, and the entire atmosphere is tense because of Howard's crazy behavior towards Michelle and Emmett. It really makes you ask the question, would you believe a crazy guy who tells you the world just ended? Probably not. However, the movie does a great job executing this idea, and you're constantly second-guessing yourself throughout the entire duration of the movie on what to believe. Just like the first, 10 Cloverfield Lane has a great idea and executes it pretty darn well. Until the ending. I'm not going to say any spoilers, but once the writers note the end of the movie, I think they didn't really know where to go with the story, so they just, they got caught up with having a great mystery that they didn't focus a lot of attention to the resolution of said mystery. So what we got was a goofy, somewhat anticlimactic ending that felt more like a last-minute alternate ending than the actual real ending. However, it's not about the ending, but rather the journey, and this movie has a good one, so, yeah. There's understandably only three main characters in the movie: Michelle, Emmett, and Howard. Michelle, while a little too silent at times, is a great main lead. The actress playing her does a great job, and Michelle is just such a competent character, and there's never a moment where the audience is frustrated during moments where she's assessing the situation, because she always thinks rationally, and her superstition towards the situation is always justified. Michelle was an awesome lead. Emmett is a random dude who's also in the bunker, and he's really likable. He's super nice, and him being gullible to everything Howard tells him is a nice contrast from Michelle, and it's interesting to see the two discuss their totally different perspectives of each other. In a way, Emmett was a really important character because without him, it'd just be Michelle and Howard. But that would probably make the movie more suspenseful. It wouldn't be interesting without someone else Michelle can talk to and discuss the situation with. However, Howard steals the show completely. John Goodman does a phenomenal job as Howard. Despite not looking like it, Howard is absolutely unstable and he's pretty freaking aggressive at times. He's super intimidating, and just his presence alone adds a whole nother layer of suspense to the movie. All the characters are written really well and not only work well off each other, but each play important roles in the narrative. Well, so far, 10 Cloverfield Lane captures what made the first so good. Good concepts, great atmosphere, and good characters. But what about the pacing? Is it good too? Sadly, not really. See, you have three characters trapped in a confined space with only one question that needs answering. Okay, so what about... Oh, the movie is an hour and 45 minutes. Okay, buddy. You might ask, what do they do in this hour and 45 minute movie with only one question that needs answering? Simple. They just keep asking it. See, this movie sort of gets a little repetitive. One moment it's like, Howard is crazy and he's lying. And the next moment it's like, he's telling the truth. Fallout in Las Vegas is happening above us right now. And the movie keeps switching your mind a little too much to the point where it gets a little annoying. You may not notice it upon your first viewing, but afterwards it gets annoying. So is 10 Cloverfield Lane a good movie? Sure. However, is it perfect? Not really. I still liked it though, and I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. Alright, there's only one more Cloverfield movie out as of right now that needs reviewing. And that's the Cloverfield Paradox. The Cloverfield Paradox released in 2018, and unlike its two predecessors, released exclusively to Netflix instead of in theaters. The Cloverfield Paradox, like Lane, is its own separate story with connections to the other movies in the series. However, the connections in Paradox are much more major than in Lane, because Paradox easily has the biggest influence on the overall story of the series. However, this entry in the series is despised by many fans of the Cloverfield series and is easily regarded as the worst one. Is that so? Well, let's find out. The Cloverfield Paradox follows a group of astronauts who are trying to find a solution to an energy crisis on Earth that's about to spark conflict between countries, resulting in global chaos. The astronauts attempt to activate a machine that will use energy from space or whatever to give Earth permanent energy. However, something goes wrong with the machine and it rips apart space, fabric, and time and sends that group of characters into an alternate dimension where chaos starts to ensue. Overall, this is an alright concept, and this could make for plenty of interesting situations. I can't really talk a lot about the Cloverfield Paradox's overall plot without giving away too much, since this movie also serves as a mystery. All you need to know is that there's a lot of cool sci-fi stuff in here for space nerds like myself, and all of the questions and revelations this movie sets up are executed pretty well. Overall, while the concept for the movie is okay, the movie's logic is pretty smart, and the overall execution of the story is done really well, the overall narrative is just bland to me. I don't know why, but personally I just didn't feel invested into the story. The entire time whenever a question was answered, my mind wasn't really blown. I was just like, huh, that's cool, I guess. Well, what about the characters? These guys, yeah, they're pretty boring. They're not written poorly, nor are they unlikable. They're just not fleshed out that well. None of them have a good aesthetic to them. They're all just there to make sure the plot happens. And as for the pacing, the movie isn't as fast-paced and heart-pumping as the first Cloverfield, nor is it as slow as Lane's. It's alright. There weren't many times where I was bored or uninterested. I wanted to know what was going on, and there are some intense situations. There we go. I think the movie was paced well with the story it was trying to tell. It was just okay. And even though this is a Netflix exclusive movie, the effects are pretty awesome. The ship looks decent, and a few things that happen that I can't spoil looks pretty good too. Overall, the movie has a nice presentation. A few special effects they had to use are pretty decent. I think the Cloverfield Paradox had potential, but it was just a meh experience. Even if you're a fan of the movie, be honest, the only reason it exists is so it can answer a lot of questions about the first two and build up hype for the fourth entry. I don't think the Cloverfield Paradox was as bad as people made it out to be, but it was still painfully mediocre, earning it a 3 out of 5. Well, that's the entire Cloverfield series as of right now reviewed. As you can probably tell, I'm a huge fan of this series. I love how each movie is its own thing and can be regarded as such, but die-hard fans can make connections and see the bigger picture behind the entire Cloverfield universe. 2018's Overlord was actually supposed to be Cloverfield 4 at some point, but it eventually turned into its own thing. However, we have received good news that Cloverfield 4 will not only be written from the ground up as a Cloverfield movie, but it will have a theatrical release, unlike Paradox. Oh, I forgot to mention that both 10 Cloverfield Lane and the Cloverfield Paradox were originally going to be standalone films, but they were rewritten somewhere through development to fit into the Cloverfield universe. I'm just comfortable knowing that if Cloverfield 4 is like any of its 3 predecessors, it'll be mediocre at worst and amazing at best. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, then please like and subscribe, and as always, I will see you guys next time. Peace, everyone.